What's up, guys? Shawnthebro here. Today we are going to be learning how to do smash attacks in the Super Smash Brothers series. So what this means is if I do a attack, like this new attack that I've got going on, this boxing punch, I can just do it if I press the button. But I can also hold it to do a more powerful attack. So we don't have any of the flashing or anything done yet, but you know, like if you are to press forward A in Super Smash Brothers, you'll stop for a few frames and then finish the attack. Usually your player would be glowing or like flashing, and then you would do more damage when you come out. Those are called smash attacks. So we're going to learn how to do that today, basically, for this tutorial. So this one's one I'm really happy with. It's one I think is very important in terms of the Smash gameplay, and if you're making a Smash game, you kind of need to have that. So I feel really happy about that. And I think it's simple enough that you guys will be happy too. So we'll get right into it. But just if you're new to this series, you may want to watch the previous episodes because I'm going to kind of continue some of the trends that we've already done. But, you know, that's up to you. If you want to watch it, I will link the video in the top right in the iCard right now. So let's start off with just adding the new input. So as always, go to Edit, Project Settings. Go to Engine Input. Action mappings plus press the little plus to add one, and then go ahead and type in whatever you want. Forward attack, I made mine E. Usually smash attacks are, in fact I think all smash attacks are like a direction and then a button, not just a single button like E. But I did keep Q as my basic attack, so let me show you real quick what that looks like. So my basic attack is Q. You cannot charge this attack, that's on purpose. I mean, you could make it to where you could charge it. But the intention is, oh, I can't charge this attack because this is like my basic input. And then what I labeled as E is basically my forward right, or excuse me, my forward A or my forward attack or whatever. So since I'm just using a keyboard, and we also haven't gone over multi-input attacks, right now E is my smash attack, okay? So you can go ahead and make that whatever you want. If you know how to do multiple input attacks, then go ahead and do like forward whatever button you want. But if you don't, just go ahead and add whatever. Mine is E. Okay, we're gonna need a few more things here. So just so you know, I added a struct F attack, a struct F attack that I don't believe, or that I didn't use in this episode, that I plan on expanding upon and using further down the line. But for now, we only have 2 attacks. I think it's fine how it is. I just wanted to add this in as kind of a reminder to myself. So you don't have to add this, but feel free. This is how you make a ustruct in C++ when using Unreal Engine. So there you go. Okay, so we're going to need a few more things this time, and I'll go over them first before we get into any of the logic. So we're going to want 2 more booleans. I have one that's called has use forward attack, which is essentially just if I pressed E or not. But again, theoretically, we're going to be doing controller input in the future, so it'll be multi-input attacks. So for now, forward attack. Okay, so it's just a boolean. Down the line, we'll probably switch it over to the struct, so you don't have a ton of booleans that you have to account for, but for 2 attacks, this is fine. Just go ahead and make a boolean for that. And I have a boolean called isCharging. IsCharging will essentially allow us to determine if the timer has run out, right? So if you've been holding the button long enough and it automatically fires, because usually smash attacks, when you're holding them for so long, they will automatically trigger after like 60 frames or something like that. I forget the exact number for a lot of them, but I think a lot of them are usually like 60 to 120 frames. So there you go. So that's what that's for. It'll help us determine either a max time, or if the player has released the button, go ahead and attack at that level. Let's see. Lastly, we're going to need 2 more things. This is for the timer specifically, so this is for the max time. So this is for if you don't release the button, but you want to automatically trigger the attack once a certain amount of time has passed. We're going to need, first of all, a F timer handle. And I just called it input held timer. An F timer handle in Unreal is basically saying you can use this handle to deal with stuff that you use or that you created with your timer, right? So I'll get into that when we get into the logic, but just go ahead and make one. You won't necessarily need one for this episode, and I'll show you why, but it's going to come in very handy down the line. So lastly, go ahead and add a float max input hold time. This is the value that you want for the longest possible held time before the attack will automatically trigger. You can change this for different attacks, or it can be the same for every attack in the game. It doesn't really matter. Just go ahead and have some sort of float. That way you can have a time to base this off of. That's all for the variables. I did make 2 more functions, a forward attack and a forward smash attack. So forward attack is going to do the logic for if I just press E and release it right away. If I'm not holding it at all, I can just press it, do my logic, and I'm done. Forward smash attack will cover the logic if I'm holding down the E button. So call them whatever you want, but just make sure you know the difference. Let's go into our constructor, as we always do, and set our variables. So is charging should be false. Has used forward attack should be false. Max input hold time. You can set this here. I set it to 1. Admittedly, I can't really remember how the timer does the time. So I think 1 is 1 second, and that's the intention. However, it's kind of hard. A lot of the times they base it off of frames as opposed to seconds. I believe 1 is 1 second, but don't quote me on that. I can figure it out if anyone has any actual issues with it. I just honestly haven't taken the time to look it up. I believe 1 is 1 second, but either way, it's a decent amount of time. Okay. Now, in our setup player input component, this is where we do all our controls. Remember, if you've been watching this series, you'll know this. But what we're going to do is add a pressed and a released for our forward attack, because we want to have forward attack again if we just press it, and forward smash attack if we release it. Okay, so go down to this is our basic attack, where we literally just set the boolean to true and the anim BP does the rest. In this case, we are going to do some logic in our forward and forward smash attack, basically just to determine if we're doing a regular forward attack or we're doing our forward smash attack. So pretty simple, right? Nothing that shouldn't make nothing that should be too confusing right now. So in forward attack, I checked to make sure we are not already charging. This is important because even though you might not need it now, because we only have 2 attacks. If someone is spamming attacks down the line, you don't want to be able to cancel a currently charging attack. So we want to make sure we're not currently charging anything. If you do want that for whatever reason, then skip this if statement. But this will basically say, okay, as long as we're not charging right now, we will begin. Otherwise, we don't want to do this. And honestly, you should probably add logic like this to basic attack as well, but we'll figure that out more as we get into combos and things like that. That's where it's going to get a bit tricky. Okay, we want to set, when we do our forward attack, we want to set has used forward attack to true, because regardless if they're charging or not, we have used the attack. Just end of story. We have used the attack. And, okay, and then when we first press this, so when we're in forward attack, we do want to also set is charging to true. Because regardless, again, if they're charging or not, whether they're holding it or not, it'll either go off as soon as they release it, which will just do a quick press, or they'll charge it. Either way, doesn't really matter. Just make sure that the game will assume that they are charging, basically, once they press the button. You'll see how this works out when we get into the anim BP, but just set it to be charging to true, okay? And then when you do this last part here, this part's going to look a little bit confusing, and honestly, it is a bit confusing. But once you do it a few times, this makes a lot of sense, and it's very useful. So what this is our timer. So if you get the world, get the timer manager. By the way, this is just an IntelliSense error. It will compile and work with this. Nothing is wrong here. But you can get the world, get timer manager, and feel free to check if these are null pointer before proceeding, but you don't really need to. If your world is not set up and you're trying to do a forward attack before your world exists, yeah, something would have crashed along the way, most likely. Same with get timer manager. It's kind of something that if this isn't working, this is more on Unreal's side, so you don't really need to check if these are valid before proceeding. You could, but really not necessary. Go ahead and call the set timer function. All right, so here's what we're doing here. We're passing in our timer handle. This is what we can use down the line if we want to pause our timer, clear our timer, or reset our timer. I think there's a few more things you can do too. Obviously, pause will stop it at a certain point. Reset will reset it back to 0, but allow it to continue to go, like to count up. And clear it would just be set it back to 0 and don't do anything with it. And I think it also deletes it, so you can't use that timer as a reference anymore. This is literally just the keyword to, it's a pointer to this class essentially. Don't worry about that really, just put this in here. Forward smash attack, this is the function we want to call. So if this timer reaches the max input hold time, which is the 1 second I gave it, then call this function right here. Okay, that's how this works. And false, quite frankly, I don't even remember what this does. Let's look at the parameters. And of course, it's going to be all. Anyway, set this to false. It should be fine. No, I'll look this up and update the description, but I always set this to false, so I don't know what this does. So don't think about that. But anyway, what this does is literally, okay, timer has reached this amount without being told otherwise. I'm going to perform this function. Pretty simple stuff. Basically, this timer will automatically start counting up once you call this function set timer, so you don't have to do anything else to it. Okay, in our forward smash attack function, it's pretty similar, except we don't need any sort of timer, since the timer is already done at this point, right? If we've called our forward smash attack function, the timer doesn't, it's not relevant anymore, which is why we need this is charging variable. So, if is charging, if we are charging, do this. If we don't have this logic in here, and you were to hold the button halfway, or hold the button for half the time, release it, you would do the attack. Then when the timer went off from the previous function right here, you would do the attack again. However, since we're setting is charging to false at the end of this function, if you release the key early, this timer will call this function, but it'll get killed right here. So there you go. Simple enough, right? So make sure you check if you're charging or not. Set forward attack back to true, even though it never got set back to false. So this is honestly kind of unnecessary. It was more a sanity check for me. I'm probably going to remove it, but I'll leave it alone for now since, since we're in the video. I try not to make too many changes in the video itself so I don't confuse anybody. But then set is charging back to false. Okay, so the code part of things is not too hard, honestly. In here, we will determine damage as well. We'll determine damage based on how long we've held it. It'll be a damage modifier. I haven't done that yet. I thought that was too much to add to this episode because there's honestly quite a bit that goes into that. I also want to do an episode on making characters flash, or like do some sort of animation when you're charging up. So don't worry, we'll be covering both of those in this series. For now, this is just getting the animations down and getting the inputs down. We'll focus on damage and like visual effects afterward. But this is all the code for this. Should be good to go. Yep, just making sure I didn't miss anything. Okay, all good. So now we got to go to Unreal. Just a quick note for those that have not been following this series. When you do input in here, make sure this word right here, like minus forward attack, is equal to what you put in the setup player component, the setup player input component, forward attack. You see that? That's how it knows to call this function when you press that button. Okay. So, you can get rid of this now. The last things that we need to do are get our animation that we want to use, split it into 2, and assign everything correctly in the AnimBP. So let's start with splitting up our animation so we know exactly what we're working with. So I have my animations in here. I have forward attack and forward attack smash. So essentially, I've taken one animation and I've stopped it early. I've stopped it at the frame that I plan on, pausing it, essentially, if the player is holding the attack. Okay? So this is what the first part of the attack looks like, and this is what it will actually look like in slow motion. This is what it will look like when I first press the button. Then if I'm holding the input, I will get locked at this frame right here because this is the end of the animation. Makes sense, right? We want to lock it there. You can do things like set the scale, like the play scale to 0 and things like that to pause it. Sure, I mean, it's probably even better than having 2 animations like I'm doing, but it's honestly a lot of hassle, and it can cause a lot of issues. We did it when we were working on Fury Strike, and it could have been us being ignorant about the topic. I'm not going to try and claim that it's not. But for us, it was a lot harder to do combos and things like that when we were trying to deal with the play scale. And plus, some animation scales you want to change anyway for different things, and it gets kind of nasty. So I'd recommend getting an animation and right-clicking on it and duplicating it. You'll have 2 of the exact same animation. I called mine forward attack, smash. Go into your first one, which is going to be the first part of your animation up to the frame that you are going to stop on during your charge attack. Alright? During your smash attack, I should call it. So you'll stop here. Then, when I go to forward attack smash, I went to the exact same frame. Cut out everything before that. So then when the smash attack fires, it looks like this. And there's a ton of frames here that I'll end up getting rid of when we do some polish. But this is the important part. He does the actual blow of the attack, right? The damaging part of the attack. So I had 2 animations. Now what we want to do is go into our anim BP. This is my anim BP for my character. And all of this is stuff I've done in other episodes, so don't worry about this. There's 2 things we need to add here. First of all, and I keep saying it, but it's true. If you watch the other episodes, you already have this, so don't worry about what's going on here. But just basically get your character class casted from your pawn owner. So meaning we're getting this anim BP's pawn owner and casting it to our character, which is exactly what we are. We're an SSB template character because we don't have any overridden characters at the moment. Like if you had Mario or something, you know, and you had a Mario anim BP, then obviously you could cast as the Mario class, right? But what we're doing is we're going to grab the isCharging variable and set isCharging anim. I've gotten a few questions about this. Let me just go over this again. Make sure when you type your code in Visual Studio, you hit build, and then come over to Unreal and hit compile right here. And once it's done, assuming everything succeeded, you should get access to any variables that you added in code but couldn't see before. You can also rebuild Visual Studio, and that will take care of everything for you. You don't normally have to compile Unreal after that. However, a lot of the times you'll have to close the engine to actually be able to get this to work. So I'd suggest just doing the build and compile. Sometimes Unreal picks up on the build automatically and will do what's called a hot reload in the bottom right corner, and that's how you'll know that it also built. Just a little side note. Alright, so we have our SSB template character. We want to just set isCharging to isCharging anim. It's a new boolean here. I also made a has used forward attack anim. This is just essentially a way to avoid casting to characters within the event graph, or excuse me, within the state machine. So you just basically set this new boolean and then use this boolean in the logic in the state machine. Okay, so it's a little bit of a, you know, kind of like a, not a workaround, but it is kind of a way to avoid a lot of work being done in the state machine. Not sure if it's the best way to do it. It's the way I've known to do it and the way I've done it at some places where I've worked. So there we go. So just go ahead and set this. It doesn't matter if it's true or false. We don't need to do a branch. Before I was doing a branch in here, I realized I was kind of stupid because you don't really need to do a branch. Just set it to whatever this is. If isCharging is true, then we want to set isCharging anim to true. Otherwise, set it to false. Same with this. So if you have watched the series before, you'll have probably an if statement here with different logic. Forget that. That was stupid. Just take has used basic attack, set basic attack anim, and then set this one back to false. Because no matter what this gets, you want to make sure this gets set back to false. This will always have the most up-to-date anim. So set this back to false. This could change depending on how we do combos, but for now, this is good. Do the same thing for forward attack. Take your forward attack boolean from your character, set it to your anim boolean right here. Set the one from your character back to false. Okay, so That might have been a little bit confusing, but if you can follow that and can get that done, that's all we need to do in the anim BP. The rest of our work is in the state machine. Okay? So we're done with this. Gonna go to the state machine. Now, I apologize in advance. State machines, I can never get to look good. So this is ugly. I tried to keep it as well as I could. But here, you don't really need to know about these things, so I'll move them out of the way for this episode. This is what we're focusing on. So we're focusing on, so right click and you can add state. I would add a forward attack and a forward attack smash. We'll go over what we need for each of them. Make sure from idle, they can go to forward attack, and from forward attack, they can go to forward attack smash. Forward attack smash can go back to idle. Forward attack should not be able to go back to idle. Okay? So idle to forward attack to forward attack smash, back to idle. Those are the ones you need. In them, in forward attack, you're just going to play your initial animation, okay? The one that we end up stopping when we get to the point where we want to implement our smash attack animation. With that said, in forward attack smash, we're going to play the smash attack version, which is the animation after the smash attack occurs, right? Should make sense. Make sure that these aren't looping, otherwise that'll throw some stuff off. So smash, forward attack smash and forward attack should both have loop set to off. And then your conditions for going from idle to forward attack are just has used forward attack anim. It's this boolean, the one we set in the anim BP right here, this node. Make sure if this is true, then we can enter this, because regardless of whether we're holding it or not, we have used the forward anim attack. So we do want to go into this state and at least play the first part of it. Now, this next part is important. Perhaps the most important part of this whole thing to make this work. Forward attack to forward attack smash. Forward attack cannot go back to idle. So one way or another, we're going to be playing the rest of this animation. We only want to play the rest of this animation if we are not charging the attack currently. This works in two different ways for us. So, and I'm going to play it to show you, because I think it'll make more sense. If I just press the button, I do the full attack right away, right? That's because I go from one state to the other. Forward attack to forward attack smash, because I am not charging my attack. Or, since I'm holding my attack, only do the attack once I'm no longer charging, once I've released the button or once the max timer has run out. So it works in two ways for us. Both sets of logic, whether I press it, hold release, or even just hold it until the timer runs out, it will go into the forward attack smash state. And that's what we want. You don't want to make this automatic rule based, otherwise it will automatically go from forward attack to forward attack smash when this is finished, which you don't want because, again, we're holding it, right? We want to keep it there. Lastly, to finish this off, from forward attack smash, you want to go back to idle, and it's this guy right here. You don't want anything in here. Well, you can put things in here. You don't need anything in here. But what you do want is to make sure it's automatic rule based. So once this animation is complete, it will go back to idle. That's basically what automatic rule based means. So one more time, we got our basic attack, which does not have any sort of smash attack, right? You can press it, hold it, whatever, you'll do the same attack every time. Then we have our smash attack, which you can press and do. Essentially, this is you still holding it. It's still like charging, but you just release it that it does the whole animation right away. Or you can hold it and release it and it'll go. Or you can hold it and the timer will automatically make it go. That's everything this episode covers. You should be good with that. And now you should have smash attacks implemented in your game. And now implementing other ones is really easy. All you have to do if you want to implement another one, well, you kind of have to go through the whole process, but I mean, it's really easy setup. You can still use the isCharging boolean. You just need a new boolean for this guy. And you can use the same timer and input as long as you're careful with it. Make sure not two of them are running at the same time or anything like that. You could also use an fattack struct instance like I have here, and just use an fattack for every time they press an attack. Fill this out with data, same exact process, but that way you don't have to have a bunch of booleans. Yeah, and just make sure you add another input for your other attack, and then just go through the AniBP process. So it is kind of a pain, and it is a lot of work to add an attack. However, it should be extremely easy at this point to do it, just kind of tedious. And I don't really know a good way to get rid of the tedious aspect of it, admittedly. To be fair, though, I mean, that's kind of just how fighting games in particular are very specific with their rules. It's kind of hard to make it so you could automate this process anymore, because it's like, oh, certain frames, I have to stop it here. Certain attacks, they have different frames here. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is it is a bit of work, but I think this is a pretty simple way to get it done, and I think you guys are going to be pretty happy with the results. So hopefully you guys like this tutorial on Smash Attacks. If you did, please subscribe. It helps me more than anything else you can do here on the channel, and more importantly, it helps me understand that you guys are interested in this type of content. I try to release content that you guys are interested in on the Discord, which is in the description if you want to join. I can assist you with any issues you have with pictures and videos. I can send them over. Or you can go ahead and post YouTube video requests in that Discord. So I have a list right now of different videos that I have requested that I want to finish for you guys. So go ahead and add to that if you're interested, or just comment down below. You don't have to join the Discord. It's totally a fun, loving community. It's not like, hey, you gotta join this Discord, I'm not gonna do your video. Hey, it's just we just have it there for fun, so don't worry. But it is there to help you guys with programming stuff as well. So yeah, so that's about it for that, guys. Lastly, I just want to add an extra note. We just hit 100 followers on Twitch, so I'm Shawnthebro27 on Twitch, link in the description if you want to come support us and follow us. Again, I've gotten people every single week who are like, hey, I'm so-and-so from YouTube, and I just want to give you some support. So thank you guys. Thank you so much for coming and watching me play, and actually engaging with the challenges and some of the puzzles we've been having on the streams themselves. So if you want to come help us out, go ahead and follow us on Twitch, and yeah, that's it. We'll just hang out and have a good time together in a place where I'm not just talking over Unreal to you. I'll actually have games going and things like that. But anyway, guys, I'm Shawnthebro. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I'll see you in the next one, guys. It's gonna be the fighting game. All right. See you later, guys.